Welcome to A Dose of Feel Good. I'm your host, Whitney Bischoff, and today we are talking about what fuels your authentic joy. You can see full show notes at doseoffeelgood.my.canva.site. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to episode 4 of A Dose of Feel Good, and I am so excited to talk today about what fuels our authentic joy. And whatever that thing is, knowing how to passionately pursue it. We only live life once, and I know we hear that all the time, but being able to find what fuels that authentic joy helps make life so much more fun to live and to really live in the moment. We can't make others happy until we feel good ourselves, which I know seems a little counterintuitive to the whole point of this podcast, but really, unless we feel good, we can't pass that on to those around us. So it's important that we start with making ourselves feel good, which can come off sometimes as maybe being a little narcissistic or selfish or whatever that looks like. But I think when we passionately pursue what gives us joy, other people lean into that as well, and it doesn't come off as narcissistic or anything like that, because when we put ourselves first, it can be really beautiful and allows others to know that that's okay to do for them as well. I think it's important to start with finding out and knowing what brings you the most joy in your life. So if you've taken a second recently, or maybe not so recently, and really analyzed what brings you that joy, and do you know what brings you that really authentic joy? So this was phrased to me recently, to know what that authentic joy feels like with just a question. So when was the last time you got lost in something for hours and had no concept of time at all? And a little vulnerability for you all. When I had that question posed to me, I really had to stop and take a second, and I could not remember the last time that was. And I really pride myself with finding the joy, being really joyful, but I didn't know when I got lost in something, and I love pursuing what I'm passionate about. But I took that a little stab to the heart a little bit. And so it took me a second, and I was like, what do I get lost in? And that's actually kind of where this podcast came out of. I love helping others feel good. And now that I've started this journey, I can sit and come up with outlines for episodes, ideas for episodes, all day long, coming up with the marketing materials, the fun little stickers with QR codes, and just giving out feel-good things. And I just get lost in it for hours. And I think I finally come back around to that thing. And welcome, you're all on this journey as well. But taking a second and really trying to know, what are those things that you get lost in, and making note of those things and trying to do that more often. Another way to look at it is following that giddy feeling, knowing how to recognize it, and really leaning into it. So I always say that feeling deep in your bones that you're like, this feels really good. And sometimes it takes maybe knowing the opposite of maybe when you really don't feel so good. How does that feel in your body versus when you feel really good? And what's the difference between the two? And knowing that your body does have a physical reaction when you're feeling really good, and really leaning into that authentic joy. So being able to know the difference of what that actually feels like and what are those things that fuel that joy in those moments. I also think it's really important to know that I do think that there is a difference between being happy and being joyful. And what I mean by that is that being happy is an emotion. We have little control over that. So if you think of Inside Out, which I know Joy is a character there, but we're going to think of her as happy here. We don't have any control over being happy in those moments. It's just how we react. I really think that joy is a concept. It's a mindset that we can control. But first, we have to recognize what that looks and feels like, and what are those moments in our lives that give us that joy. So really thinking of it in that concept, that happiness is that emotion, where joy is the mindset, and we can respond with joy and bring more of it into our lives by what fuels those moments. So I also think that really not just joy, but authentic joy, that's what we're talking about here today, happens when we know what makes us tick. So if you haven't done like a strengths assessment, or really like taken a second to think of like what you value in life, you won't know what fuels that authentic joy because you don't maybe necessarily understand like what makes you tick. The more you know what makes you tick, then you're going to lean into the things that complement your personality really well, or the people that do, or those activities that do. So for example, I was talking with some of my friends recently, and I had a break in jobs a while back, and in that moment, I genuinely thought that the way to be joyful is to really do this like intrinsic thought processes, right? That self-care is, you have to do it by yourself, all of these different pieces. And then I took a second, and I'm very extroverted. And so someone called out, they're like, Whitney, you have to be around people. That's literally what fuels your joy. And the more that I started then going out, being around people, I felt so much more joyful. So knowing that the extrovert in me needs that. So it looks different for everyone, obviously, but it all starts with knowing what makes you tick. What are your strengths? What are your values? What is your personality like? And what do you need to then fuel that joy? I think I'm finally here. So I've reached my 30s. I've talked to a lot of people that are in their 30s and 40s, honestly, and they're like, these are our best years. And y'all, I 100% believe that. I'm like, I am finally living my best life. And I was listening to another podcast, and they were like, you know what? If what brings you joy is standing in the middle of a street and taking selfies because you feel good and you need to be reminded that you feel good and look good, do that. And I've been doing that a lot because I'm like, man, 30, I finally arrived. I finally feel really good about all the things that I'm doing, who I am, what I am focusing my energy and attention into. And I also am like, and I look good. And I need to be reminded of that. So that's okay, right? And doing that for me, right? I think I said this in a previous episode. I love doing daily dances, and I do it for me. That's what fuels my authentic joy. And being okay with that. And knowing that for my personality, I gotta do those things, and I gotta post them out into the universe as reminders. And I do it, again, just for me. And it can come off as maybe attention sinking or whatever. But deep down, I'm like, you know what? I don't even care. I don't care how this comes off to the rest of the world, because this is what feels good to me. I think we also live in a world where we're just busy all of the time. So we have to also make space for those moments that bring us joy, or those things that do, whether that's people, whether it's, again, it's usually people in some sort of competitive environment for me, but really making that a priority so that way you are fueling that joy. I now know that I feel my best when I'm channeling my energy into the things that build on my strengths. So winning others over is my top strength. And so anytime I'm around people, get to talk to people, I always joke, like, I could probably talk to a wall and it's not going to talk back, but I can definitely make up a conversation. Like, I can talk to anyone, and I love doing that. I also love learning new things. That's part of my input strength. And then also communications. I love talking in front of people. I just think I have a lot of fun ideas to share. So welcome to the ride. That's why this podcast is here as well. But I think this is so important because when we lean in and prioritize these joyful moments, it lowers our frustration, it lowers our stress, and it also grows our connection to others. It gives us sometimes, I think, those vulnerable moments that it doesn't always have to be joyful. We don't always have to be happy. That's definitely not what we're talking about here. But it also helps us recognize maybe in those moments what is counterintuitive. Are there things that we're doing that aren't bringing us joy or that are going against our strengths or our personality? And instead focusing on our strengths and leaning on others to do the same and to build each other back up. It's not normal to prioritize ourselves, but when we start to do so and focus on these joyful moments, again, thinking back to episode 2, it will ripple out to everyone around us. And I think that can be really powerful. It can also be powerful when we show others how incredible it can be when we put ourselves first. And I really feel like I've finally gotten to a place where I can put that people pleasing aside and focus on what brings me joy. And I feel happier and I feel like I'm able to do so much more now that I'm finally in this space. When we know what fuels us, we can also communicate that to others. I am terrible at asking for help. I am terrible at being vulnerable with others. But the more that we're able to kind of communicate, I communicate all the time. I need to be around people. I need to be talking to people. It's just who I am. I'm surrounded. All of my friends, I literally think almost all of them are introverts. So they kind of team up and make sure they're checking in on me, making sure I have those people because they know that's what I need for the joy. And I don't have to then do it myself. And so they want to support us to be our best selves and vice versa. So when we know what that is, we can communicate that to those around us. And so it becomes a team effort for us all to live our best lives. Plus, joy just makes us feel good. And that's the whole point of this podcast. We want to feel good. And when we feel good, that energy radiates. And I think that's why we do what we do. That's the whole point of living is, I always say, spreading that light, that sunshine. It's kind of a dark, dreary day here today. So you know what? I'm going to have to be that sunshine and I got you. So what can you do with this information? I highly encourage you to find out and identify your strengths. So there are a lot of free different personality quizzes. The Enneagram's a great one. There is just a strengths quiz. Obviously, Myers-Briggs is a good one. But just know, like, what kind of strengths do you have with your personality and what kind of activities really help that shine? Write them down, keep that top of mind. I also want you to take a second and identify maybe activities that you do feel like you get lost in, you lose all track of time. And also, like, how does that feel in your body? And it might not be at one moment in time, but I think as you're out living life, doing all the different things, just take a pause and really identify, how does this feel now? Is it good? Is it bad? Does it bring me joy? Is it kind of a gross feeling? Where are we at on that spectrum? And really start to identify those. And then the last piece, I really encourage you to prioritize the time for what brings you joy. And I know there's a lot of people who are working full time. They're busy. Family takes up a lot of time. Shout out to all the moms and dads out there. Kids take up a lot of time. But knowing that when you prioritize that time to refuel your cup through these things that bring you authentic joy, you're going to show up even better for those around you that you're serving, whether that's work, volunteering, family, whatever that looks like. And knowing that you don't have to do it alone. The more that you can make it a team effort, I always say, the happier that we can be. And we know we don't have to figure it all out ourselves or rely on ourselves to be the end all be all. And I think that can be really beautiful. So that's the end of episode 4. Thank you for tuning in. Also, at any point, if y'all are interested in having some feel-good stickers or kindness cards, message me or email me through the website or through our Instagram account. And we look forward to having you join us again next week. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you are feeling ready to conquer the week and let your impact ripple out to the world around you. Let's connect on Instagram and Threads at Dose of Feel Good Podcast. If you're loving the podcast, I'd love it if you'd hit that subscribe button and leave a review. Until next time, share your own dose of feel good and never underestimate the power of positivity.